Good Friday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show. Before we get started, let's look at the shared screen, the disclaimer. Be aware, Market Chameleon, myself, Dimitri, none of us are registered investment advisors. So take everything just for informational purposes only. And if you need to consult a broker dealer, please do. With that, let's get started. How you doing this morning, D?
Good. How are you? Well,
Good.
yeah, just so
One
we're
note,
not
we are
either,
having, oh, I'm sorry.
we're also not a broker dealer, just so people.
Yeah, that's what I said that, but
Okay.
that's fine. Yep. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Um, yeah, what did you want to say? Well,
Oh, I was just going to say, just so everyone knows, we're having a webinar this coming Tuesday with Interactive Broker. I will put the link in the chat. That you need to register on the Interactive Broker site. So just make sure you do that. Also, I did attach a link. We haven't had anyone come in and ask a question live. You can come in and ask the question. We'll shut down the video so we just hear your voice if you want to ask it live. We haven't announced that in a while. So that is a feature that is nice.
all right. Yep. And I think I just shared my screen. Also, just so you guys know, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning if you're joining us for the first time to try to help answer questions that you may have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data, or the analytics. If you have a question, you can type it into that live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it and he'll read them back to me. And I guess and you put out a link if you wanted to come in on the show, I guess, and ask your question live, you could do that as well. And to give you a couple minutes to put in those questions, we will start out looking at the pre-market report, see if we could get insights, what's trading pre-market hours, then we'll move on to the questions. So over here, pre-market report. Up here, we have a calendar view of what occurred in the pre-market on previous days. So if you wanted to go back in history and look at a particular date, you can do that using the calendar. We display summary stats for the last week. If you see any kind of trend or something unusual in the last week, you could click on these dates and go back. Today we're on March 8th. So far today, we see 680 stocks trading higher in pre-market, 274 stocks trading lower. We have 149 million shares trading on up volume versus 78 million on down volume. And if we convert that volume to dollar value, we have $8.9 billion worth of stock trading higher versus $1.1 billion worth of stock trading lower. So from that perspective, it looks like so far there is a bullish lean in the pre-market trading, all right, from a high level. So if we scroll down a little bit, we could see now a little more of a granular view. Now we have stock symbols that are trading in the pre-market hours. We have our most active list, our biggest percentage gainers in the pre-market, and our biggest percentage decliners. I see we have 133 stocks that made our biggest percentage gainers list and 43 on our biggest percentage decliners. So that also points to a more bullish bias in the pre-market from this perspective. Now, to make this list, we do set thresholds for stocks trading in pre-market hours because they tend to trade with less liquidity, less volume. So we do set liquidity and volume and price thresholds. But if it meets those thresholds, the stock could make it onto this list, and that includes small cap stocks. It includes ETFs, leverage products, closed-end fund, pretty much anything that's listed on a major U.S. exchange. So to narrow down to a smaller group of stocks, we could use the filters above. If you have a watch list and you follow a certain group of stocks that you're tracking and you want to filter this list by that group, you could use this filter here, drop it down, select your watch list, and this will get filtered by that watch list. We're going to use this filter here in ETF in our example. I'm going to click on it, get a drop-down menu to select from. I'm going to choose SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF. And here, when we do that, the list gets filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF, which are the S&P 500 constituents. And we see that we have 13 stocks that made our biggest percentage gainers list and 2 on our biggest percentage decliners. So this also indicates that traders in the pre-market hours are leaning bullish or positive. So, and we looked at it from at least 3 perspectives. They all point in the same direction. And we did give it a couple minutes. I think we started a little bit later, actually. So sorry about that. I'll take questions if you have them now.
Yeah, we have one question pop up first, D, from a newer chameleon. He's, hello, please explain the logic behind a negative option sentiment in stock, and the stock is trading bullish during the day. Thanks.
A negative, I'm sorry, say that again.
It says behind a negative option sentiment in a stock, and the stock is trading bullish during the day. I don't know if you
maybe you want to give us an example.
Yeah, I don't know if you have an example of that. I was just going to ask. If you could send us over an example, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah. So, you know,
well, if the option sentiment is negative, it doesn't necessarily mean the stock is going to respond negatively, right? That's not what the option.
Okay, yeah. Let me take a look. So without an example, let's take a look at SPY. And the thing is, without like a clear example and knowing what you're looking at, we'll take a look at, I'll just bring up SPY because I have to now theorize what you're probably looking at. But the question I believe is, if I'm looking at a report that's analyzing options, right? If I'm looking at a report that analyzes only options and the options activity and the order flow in the options, right? And if the order flow in the options, so let's first talk about what the order flow in the options is doing. And this looks at the options trades, and it runs through software where it says, based on our analysis of the options trades and the surrounding data, what do we think is most likely the incoming order or the initiating order trying to do, right? So we take these statistics and we look at it. We look at the surrounding data. We look at the sequence of trades, and we say, okay, well, the most likely trade here, some degree of confidence is we think this was a put buyer, right? A put buyer, let's say. Well, a put buyer, right? When somebody buys a put, they could be doing 2 things. They could be, or 3 things. They could be hedging an existing long position. They could be just outright speculating that the stock could go down. They could be closing an existing position, rotating, whatever. But let's just say that's the order flow that we detected. That was the only trade of the day. Somebody bought puts. Well, if somebody comes in to buy puts, right, the impact of that is that the option has a delta, right? Every option has a delta. There's an option's delta is its sensitivity to a price move, for a dollar price move. So if you're trading the Black-Scholes model, for example, right? Let's say you're trading a Black-Scholes model, and let's say this 505 put, 82 cents, 83 cents, and it has a delta of 15. Oops, sorry. So it has a delta of 15 over here, negative 15. So what this means is that if the stock goes up $1, right? So that's what the delta is. If the stock goes up $1 and everything else stays the same, everything is constant. The implied volatility, the days, there's no time decay, the days to expiration is still the same. Interest rate, everything stays constant. The only thing that changes is that the stock goes up $1. Well, if that happens, then the model says that this option is expected to lose 15 cents. In other words, it drops from 82 cents, goes down 15 cents. If the stock goes down $1, let's put, right, it will gain 15 cents, right? That's the sensitivity of the option to a $1 move in the stock price. That's your Greek, right? That's the option sensitivity to a $1 directional move. Okay, and again, so that's the estimate based on the Black-Scholes. Everything else constant. So since there's that delta, well, if somebody is the action of buying a put, right? Just that action of buying a put creates a negative delta, right? So if you only bought one put, let's say, well, that's only 15 delta. It's like equivalent to 15 shares. You buy 10, it's 150, and so on, 100, 1,500. So in effect, if the delta pressure, no matter what you're doing, that impact is a negative delta, right? Whoever made a decision to buy put, that's a negative delta. Somebody on the other side will have a positive delta, right? But the initiator has a negative delta. And you could see different options have different deltas, right? So this one has a 61, 66, calls. So if we determine that okay, this was most likely a buyer of a put, the initiation was somebody trying to get short delta, right? They may have hedged it, but that was the impact of that initial trade. And then what we do is keep track of that order flow as it's going along and aggregating it throughout the day. All right. And keep in mind, we're only looking at the analysis of the option order flow from that perspective. That's what it's doing. It's aggregating those deltas along the way to see if there's some kind of, big trend or pattern. So the question is, well, if I see that the stock is up 1% and there's somebody who bought a put has a negative delta, how do you explain that trade is bearish, but the stock is up? Well, keep in mind, these are two different things, right? Just because the stock is up doesn't mean that everybody who's trading options is buying calls. That's not what that means, right? The options are trading based on order flow of what other people are trying to do. They could be selling calls, for example, against their position. Well, if you're selling calls, you're selling deltas, right? You're every time you sell a call, right? The call has a delta and you're selling deltas. If you're buying a call, you're buying deltas, right? So that's what the separation is. Look, we're trying to figure out, well, what is people trying to do in the options, right? How are they using these options? Relevant of what the stock is doing. Because if the stock is up 1% and you just want to hear bullish, we don't need to analyze the options. Then it doesn't even matter, right? Then we could just say, what's the stock price doing? Oh, 1% bullish. What we're trying to do is analyze how are people using the options today, irrelevant of what the stock is doing, what are they doing with the options? So that's why there's a separation between this, the stock could be acting bullishly, but if people are buy writing against their
Hey everyone, it sounds like we lost Dima. We'll wait for him to come back in. Bob, I see you had another question. I'll get that to D when he comes in. As while we're waiting for him, let's go to the link I put up top. Remember, on Tuesday we're having a webinar, how to use options profit calculator. Just click on that and hold on, I'm getting a call with Dima right now. Hey D.
Hey,
I think your system froze up. We're still live. You just
I think my internet just went down. I just actually I got an alert from Comcast for doing something,
all right.
and I think they turned off my internet.
All right.
I don't know how far I got into it.
Yeah, no, you left about 3 minutes ago. That's fine. We'll close it. There's no way to get in. So we'll pick up on 7:20. Let me just close it up and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Yep.
Bye. All right. With that, Comcast was nice enough to shut the internet down in Center City, Philadelphia. So we actually lost D for the day. We will be back on Monday. Thanks everyone, and thanks all the regulars who show up every day and bring questions. Super helpful. I did see, Felix, that you had Google, so I'll copy that down, send it over to D. We'll try to look at that. Also, Rob, I got your question. I will send that over to D and we'll look at them on Monday. So everyone, thanks for being a great community. Thanks for sticking with us, and everyone have a great trading day and a great weekend, and we'll see everyone on Monday. Thanks for joining us. Bye.